Hello, good evening and welcome ladies and gentlemen to another round of rapid fire racing action in the Sim Racing Collective MX-5 Championship for 2025 as proudly brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC known as iRacing. It is time for round number 4 and with it a trip into the second half of the season. We've made our way from the wet and rather damp Silverstone circuit where we saw round 3 play out and what a round it was, and we have made our way to sunny Spain for the Circuito de Navarra, a circuit recently acquisition by MSV, the predominant owner of circuits in the United Kingdom, where it is the situation whereby the Palmer Motorsport family-owned business has now expanded its way into Spain, and this circuit has gone multiple renovations since its acquisition by MSV, where it is now one of the premier circuits on the European continent and quickly rising to be an absolute star in the motor racing space. With the best part of 3 layouts, our drive is going to be taken to its second longest layout in the form of the medium speed circuit. 1.66 miles in length and consisting of an absolute tiny number of corners by comparison with many of its circuits around the globe. Indeed, only 8 corners here. It is a circuit which lacks a lot of corners, but what it makes up for it in is the fact it is plenty wide. With opportunities to go 3, 4, perhaps even 5 wide at the best of times, it is a circuit where the battles will keep on coming lap after lap and corner after corner, and we won't know who your winners are until they reach the final turn and we're at the checkered flag. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this live broadcast of Circuit Side. You're tuning in right now on the official The Sim Racing Collective YouTube channel. Indeed, go to youtube.com and search for TSRC or The Sim Racing Collective, and you can be tuning in there. And hello to you guys and girls in the YouTube chat, including there, well, a good number of FD Racing fans there, including 4D and also Michelle Machette. And good evening to you both there, and I hope you're both doing well. And those who haven't said hi, feel free to say hi. We don't bite here at the Sim Racing Collective. The only biting you'll see is out on circuit as our drivers do biting battles with their brakes. But as we get ready to go racing in the quarantine booth, you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX1 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And I'll bring you all your racing action as it unfolds today. And speaking of today, our schedule for today, times in the British time zone. Well, as we can see, qualifying is due to get underway in just under 3 minutes' time, and after which we'll head straight to the grid for the first of our 2 races. And of course, it will be race number 7 on the calendar with our sprint race, 15 minutes in duration, due to get underway at 8:15 this evening, after which we will then take a brief breather before returning for our feature race for race number 8 of the championship, and that'll be 30 minutes in length, double the duration of the sprint, and with that top 10 inverted grid as well, based on the finishing positions of race number 1. So plenty to look forward to today, no doubt about it, but let's talk a little bit about the calendar so far and what's still lying in wait. Because as we can see now into the second half of the calendar, as quickly as that, we're making our way towards the very end of September. We began all the way back on September the 8th at Okayama. Then we made our way to the Nürburgring Sprint Strecker circuit, and last time out it was the international out of the Silverstone circuit. Here today, right in the heart of Spain, we are at the speed circuit medium course of Circuito de Navarra, and after today we've got Watkins Glen's Cup course in a week's time, and then we bring it all to a close at the national layout of the Red Bull Ring on Monday the 13th of October. Plenty more racing to come then, no doubt about it, but points starting to become just that little bit more precious. But talking about our circuit for today, well, as we can see here, the Circuito de Navarra's medium speed circuit, located near the town of Los Arcos in the Navarra region of Spain. 8 corners there, and a big thank you to iRacing.com for not just their brilliant simulator, but also the track maps that come with it. This circuit is lacking in elevation change. The only elevation change you'll really find is the run from turn 3 into turn 5, where you go from one of the higher points of the circuit to the lowest point, and also the run from 5 to 6, where it's over the crest and down a hill in towards the braking zone. But the elevation changes are subtle. But in the absence of elevation change, it's a very flat circuit by comparison. Indeed, this will feel quite Silverstone-esque in the way it runs, and it will feel as though, in fact, we're running to a Spanish version of the international layout of Silverstone in a way, in the fact that you have plenty of racing room, and the only corners you really can't go for moves, ideally, are turns 1, 2 and 3, and that's where we can expect plenty of pinching under braking between our drivers there, and those who find themselves on the outside versus those on the inside, they may find themselves having a door rub or two, and it may send them wide. So you've got to be a little bit tactical about where you go for the moves, but also keep in mind the final 3 corners, it's 2 hairpins separated by a sweeper, and therefore it means all the battling is just going to be before the checkered flag on the final lap, and that's what makes this circuit so incredibly exciting. But as for our rules, as we get ready to go racing, this is a fixed setup series with setups provided to our drivers ahead of each and every round of racing. Qualifying wise, a closed qualifying format will be used, with drivers having 3 flying laps available plus their outlap. As for the races themselves, the sprint race grid shall be set based on results of qualifying. That's a given, and as we mentioned only moments ago, for the feature race grid, we'll set it as the top 10 reverse grid based on results of the sprint race, whereby we take the finishing positions. Whoever took victory in the sprint, they start 10th place on the grid for the feature. Whoever finished 10th, well, they'll start on pole position for the feature race, and those who finish 11th and downwards, you guessed it, it, that's exactly where they will start. And the driver shall receive a driver penalty if they accumulate 17 more instant points, and that could be one reason why they come into the pit lane. Alternatively, it might be for repair work, and we do have one fast repair available to our drivers in each of our races. Meanwhile, all race stewarding shall be conducted post-round. As we make our way back to circuit side then, well, we're very shortly going to be making our way into qualifying. In fact, let's take a look at those championship standings coming into this round and see how they all line up. And starting with the Pro Drivers' Championship, well, here we can see after 3 rounds, there is one name that is roaring away at the very top of the standings, and it is none other than Jamie Nuttall, who is absolutely storming away at the moment and now leading by the best part of 114 points to the 89 there of Kieran Sharp. And when you do consider the fact that for Nuttall, last time out, it was back-to-back victories. The first driver to do so this season, taking 2 victories back-to-back in a single round. We can understand why the cracked racing driver right now is gradually emerging to be an early favourite in the championship with 3 rounds remaining. Kieran Sharp, meanwhile, well, a third and a second last time out at Silverstone. That's moved it back into second, just ahead of teammate Tom Davidson. And the 2 TSRC esports drivers will fight each other just as much as they were other drivers, including Craig Twardock there, who had a phenomenal set of results at Silverstone. He openly admitted in the post-race broadcast he did not expect, when the post-round interview of the race broadcast, I should say, mention my words together, he openly admitted the fact that he did not expect to put himself right on the front row of qualifying and then run away with a second place finish in the sprint, let alone then finish in 5th place in the feature race. But there he openly admitted as well that he decided just to play it safe and make sure he picked up the 5th place to go with the 2nd place in the first race. Could the MSA racing driver once again prove to be a bit different today compared to the rest of his peers and move even closer to that top 3? Well, we'll have to see. Nick Clemens, iRacing Esports, he was elbowed out a bit last time out at Silverstone versus the Sim Racing Collective pair, and therefore lost out on some key points. He's down into 5th now on 67 points, ahead of Francesco Petalin, the absolute merciful ace-lift driver, on 59 points, where the Italian driver will have his teammate of Eugenio Polici join him on the grid today, and you see him in the number 7 there at the bottom of the championship tower, just ahead of Gurgly Kunzabo. But between all of them, Miles Owens for Altura Esports and Alan McCain, Sam Smith and Andrew Pike, the Irish Esports pair ahead of the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver. They round off your top 10, and behind the 48 points of Andrew Pike, it's 46 to Bart Raven, best to rest in 11th place and looking to refine that form from the Nürburgring until it all went wrong. And then from the Dutchman, it will be the British quartet of what is Clive Bourne, Bradley Horsnell, Jack Salford and William Chandler. And then we do have the 5th British driver there of MSA Races, Kieran O'Reilly, the last to have points against the name, with 24 points in 16th place. But outside of them, what about the AM drivers meanwhile, I hear you ask? Well, as we look from the top 18 of our pros, for the rest of our pro drivers there having 0 points as well, we come to the AMs, and here we can see that things are definitely getting intriguing, with Martin Foster leading the way here as it currently stands on 99 points for RPMS SimSport, ahead of Janos Wenzel. Now, Daniel Moffat was leading in that battle for 2nd place. However, a post-race penalty applied after our 2 races at Silverstone have actually demoted him down to 3rd place, and Wenzel has now moved into 2nd after a phenomenal run of results last time out at Silverstone. Indeed, Wenzel once again putting another win behind him, as well as the 7th place, and that's why he's gradually inching a bit closer. Daniel Moffat, meanwhile, conversely falling down the order to a degree there with a 3rd and 4th after post-race penalties were accrued, with Paul Sims, meanwhile, in 4th place there, the privateer, just ahead of Mav Gardner for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. But the question is, what can Sims do today? Because he was nowhere near the form he wanted to be last time out at Silverstone, with a 12th place finish ahead of a 5th place finish in the feature race, and for Sims, it definitely was a round not to be remembered. Martin Rendell sits in 6th on 61 points, only ahead of Matt Smith based on result countback, and then from the cracked racing dry, it's 57 points for the trio of Carrillo Toran, Thomas Martin and Gareth Ronda, who round off your top 10, with 55 points there to the privateer of Mark Perza, and then Lenny Henson, who takes a qualifying ban into this round due to picking up enough instant points, or should we say license points, with regards to his Super Racing license. Well, he sits in 12th place and knows he's got to do it from the back of the field today for Bottle Job Racing, head of LaBrocca Racing Team's David Long, only on result countback. Then it's a further 7 points to Valeria Tedeschi, head of Luke Smith, who completes your top 15, and the FD Racing drive being followed up by teammate Mickey Ford. Those are the last who've got points to their name. And then we do see Ben Hunter in 17th place there for Greasy Bandits Racing, looking to get some points on the board today as he does make his debut, and we wish Ben all the best luck as he gets ready to go racing. But that's a rundown of the championship standings, ladies and gentlemen, and well, as we now make our way into this one, we take a look, of course. Oh, goodness me, it does seem as though our overlay there having a little bit of a moment. Please forgive us there. The overlay just deciding to have a bit of a funky moment, and well, our drivers make the one around here, and no more funky moments there for our overlay. Fingers crossed, as we do see none other than Jamie Nuttall making his way on around here. here, and he's currently on what is his third and final flying lap. It's a very short lap around here, indeed just shy of 1 minute 10 for the best of our drivers, and it does look as though newcomer Eugenio Polici is the fastest out there at the moment for Absolute Motorsport Ace Live, and the number 7 driver here looking to try and put this qualifying session off into the distance. But will it be that way come the final lap? We will have to wait and see. But as we say hello to Sam Smith there, or Sim Dad in the YouTube chat, who says he can't be on the grid tonight. That is unfortunate, Sam. We'd love to see you there. We're very happy to have you tuning in this evening. And also we say hello to Big Pig Racing there, who says big up Big Pig, more like in trying to get a bit of a chant going versus the FD Racing guys in the YouTube chat. It's always great to see fans of different teams trying to cheer on their drivers all the way through the YouTube chat throughout the night. But as Polici comes towards the timeline, well, Jamie Nuttall has gone provisional pole on a 10.344. What does Polici do in response? And the answer is going to be, it's not enough there from Polici. He is going to stay as is, as meanwhile other drivers make the way on around. Here's Andrew Pike coming to a stop, and as he does, well, the best he's going to achieve is 10th place in this qualified session. He's going no further. Mav Gardner, his Sim Racing Collective Esports teammate, meanwhile, he makes his way across that line, and he's still got 2 more laps available to him, so Gardner's decided to play the long game here, and he starts off this qualifying session in 6th place of the Yams, or what is 18th place overall, as he takes the excursion out wide, and as he does so, that is going to be an invalidated lap. And that's one of the things we've got to keep in mind here today, folks, is the fact that this circuit has some very wide runoff areas. However, it's also one of those situations whereby with all these runoff areas, it's very tantalizingly easy to run off track. But then the flip side of the coin will be that when you do run out wide, you'll end up in a situation whereby you pick up it off track and also you potentially pick up a slowdown, or in the case of qualifying, you invalidate your lap. Now, we do say hello to Kev there, who says moment of silence for Roscoe, and that's in reference to Roscoe Hamilton, the dog of Sir Lewis Hamilton that recently passed away. And what we are going to do when we do transition to what will be between our 2 races, we will have a minute of silence in there in honour of Roscoe. Indeed, just have a brief amount of silence there in order to commemorate the fact that a bit of a fan favourite in terms of a driver's pet, well, in the Formula 1 paddock, definitely no longer was, sadly, and well, Roscoe will definitely be remembered and severely missed. But as Mav Gardner makes his way across that timing line, well, heading on through right now, looking to be in strong form as the 805 driver, but doesn't improve that time, of course, with the invalidated lap. And a bit further up the road, Craig Tardock, meanwhile, the MSA racing driver, he heads it around and, well, not quite matching his front row start so far, or is he going to here? Because he is on his final flying lap. He makes his way through turn number 6 and in towards 7 very shortly. The fast left-hander before the final right hairpin. He'll be flat out all the way here as he makes his way into that braking zone. But what can the 200 driver do here as he heads on around? And well, it's looking quite quick here for Tardock, but what's it going to be at the line is the big question mark. And well, he comes towards that timeline, and the lap time in the end for Tardock is going to be, his previous best was a 10.72 to nearest 100th, and this time it's going to be a 10.39. He repeats what he achieved at Silverstone. Craig Tardock seems to really enjoy these shorter circuits. He seems to have a lot of pace at his fingertips, and it's definitely shown. The 200 driver there puts himself second on the grid. Mav Gardner now is going to complete his qualifying session, and with it all the qualifying laps that are available. And what can Gardner do here as he crosses the timeline? And the answer is going to be 17th, and that equates to 5th place in the AM class. Decent effort there from Gardner, and well, he'll be hoping for a bit more in the race, but an 11.31 is a good start. Ben Hunter, meanwhile, the Greasy Bandits racing driver, he leaves the pit lane, and well, he's left the pit lane quite late in the day as he makes his way on through. And well, as he makes his way on around here, the problem he's got is the fact he will only get the out lap in. He won't actually get a valid flying lap in. However, I wouldn't be surprised if the AM drivers perhaps using this very late call to the circuit to give himself a little bit of time to warm up, and he's not planning to put a qualifying lap in for the simple reason what he in fact wants to do is start 26th on the starting grid, so alongside Lenny Hansen, and therefore just see how things play out right at the start of the race as he decides to park up there, and will Ben Hunter putting the car in position. And in fact, as he parks at the end of the pit lane, what we are going to do, ladies and gentlemen, as we do have a minute before we go to the grid, we are going to have a minute of silence in honour of Roscoe Hamilton. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, on a bit of an emotional note, a moment of remembrance there for Roscoe Hamilton, and we get ready to go racing now as qualifying comes to its conclusion. You know what time it is. It's time for our first race of the day, and it will be our 15-minute sprint here at the Circuito de Navarra. It'll be race number 7 of the championship as our drivers make the way to the grid, and this is how they'll line up for our first race of the day. It is going to be Jamie Nuttall who takes pole position there, right at the front of the field for Cracked Racing. Alongside him on that front row of the grid is going to be Craig Twardock for MSA Racing. They're going to be together there, and as they get themselves set, well, we do just get our grid updated there, and it's the pros right at the front, of course, and Craig Twardock for MSA Racing there, proving himself once again to be a bit of a stallion in qualifying, but Nuttall is the man to beat, no doubt about it. Then on round number 2, it's going to be Eugenio Pellicci for Absolute Motorsport Acelift ahead of Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, and then we will have Francesco Petterlin, who's just behind his teammate directly on that grid, and the Absolute Motorsport Acelift drivers will try to work together to push themselves forward, no doubt about it. Bart Raven begins this one in 6th place for Cracked Racing, and well, from the Dutchman, it's then going to be the Briton of Kieran Sharp for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, who I caught up with briefly in the build-up to tonight, and he was saying to me the fact he's looking forward to the racing and was interested to see where exactly he would fit into the picture. He didn't quite perhaps have the confidence of Silverstone. He's going to be joined on the full throw of the grid there by iRacing Esports' Nick Clibbins, and well, keep your eyes out for the number 13 driver as he tries to push forward. He's not quite in the position he would have liked to qualify in. He would have wanted to be on that second row. Behind them, it'll be Bradley Horsenall, who starts 9th, the privateer. And then you do have Janos Wenzel, who begins this one in 10th place there. And, well, congratulations to Janos, because that is an incredible lap to take what is effectively pole position in the AM class there. An absolutely phenomenal effort, no doubt about it. He's then going to be joined from behind by Miles Owens for Altura Esports, who begins this one 11th, best of the rest, ahead of Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. They're going to be quite close together there on that 6th row of the grid. And then on row number 7, it's going to be Clive Bourne for Big Pig Racing by VRS, head of Daniel Moffat, who makes it your 2nd place in the AM class there in 14th place. From the number 10 driver in the AM class, it's then AMs aplenty, because 15th it will be Martin Foster for RPMS Simsport, and he will be ahead of Paul Sims, the privateer, who qualifies better than at Silverstone, starting 4th. Then we have another AM in the form of Mav Gardner, who starts 17th for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, ahead of fellow class driver Matt Smith for Cracked Racing, who rounds off your 9th row of the grid. And then completing your top 20, it's the pro of Alan McCain for Iris Esports and David Long for Ladbrokes Racing Team. Outside the top 20 on row at number 11, it's going to be Mickey Ford for FD Racing ahead of Mark Pezza, and the privateer will then be followed up by Valeria Tedeschi, who starts 23rd, with Luke Smith for FD Racing starting 24th on this grid. And then in the final couple of qualifying spots, we have Lenny Hansen, who starts 25th for Bottle Job Racing with no valid lap set. The same for Gareth Ronda there, who joins literally at the end of qualifying. He starts 26th for Cracked Racing, and then it'll be Greasy Bandits Racing's Ben Hunter on his debut, starts in the very back of the grid, has got it all to do from 27th place, but to be fair, he set himself a target, and we look forward to seeing what he can do from that very back of the grid. How far can he rise in the AM machine? Well, for all that and more, ladies and gentlemen, we are now only moments away from going green flag racing for the first time here today at the Circuito de Navarra, and this, of course, will be our 15-minute sprint that's coming up. Here come the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights! And it's lights out and away we go here as 15 minutes of racing gets underway. Jamie Nuttall gets a good start. Craig Twardock, meanwhile, under a bit of pressure early on for Pellicci as they roar the way down towards the opening corner. It's a long run here as they head towards turn number 1, but very shortly it'll tighten. And as they make the way in, well, 2 wide there at the front for Pellicci and Twardock. Twardock on the inside into turn number 2, and he'll have naturally the defensive line into 3. But look at this, you can see that Tom Davidson sneaks as well at the inside, takes 3rd place as the Absolute Motorsport Acelift drivers give each other the elbow, and now the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver making early gains. A bit further back, Janos Wenzel already up into 10th place once again after losing a place to Miles Owens early on. He gets it back immediately and now goes on the charge as they make the way through turn number 4, and very shortly it will be the cresting of the ridge, and down in towards turn number 6 they come. But look at this at the front, you can see that it's getting very scattergun immediately there under braking. All of our drivers now starting to come down together. Pellicci there, well, he's let Petterlin go on the inside of him, but Nick Clemens and Kieran Sharp are right with him. Further back in the battle for 2nd place in the AMs, Daniel Moffat is holding off Martin Foster and Mav Gardner at the moment. Paul Sims has had a very slow start. You can see him there in the Sky Active MX-5 a bit further back, the red machine, the plain red machine. But as they head onto the brakes there, well, the Mario Kart, the number 10 of Daniel Moffat, trying to make its way back up the field again after just being inched out by Martin Foster. But that's 1 lap complete as quickly as that. We've got plenty more laps to come here as they make the way onto lap number 2. Alan McCain finds himself right in the medley there as they make the way on down, but he heads in towards the braking zone. Well, in the foreground, Nick Clibbins there. Well, he's right now now, trying to make his way at the inside of none other than Kieran Sharp and Nick Clemens, an all-black machine here. I wonder if that's in commemoration of Roscoe, well, to be fair, showing solidarity by not running the iRacing Esports colours today. Well, he's trying to fight hard, but Sharp is keeping him honest. And as they come on around, a bit further back, Luke Smith here and trying to make some progress. In fact, there's been a bit of drama towards the start of the race. We've had Matt Smith had to tow to the pit lane, and Gareth Ronda has not left the pits either. So a broken down car there. Ben Hunter, meanwhile, well, he's had it go very wrong as well. So Hunter's not been able to move forward. So it does seem as though several drivers having a bit of a dismal start to this race. But looking a bit further up from the back of the field, well, David Long, he tucks in behind Mark Pezza there, with Paul Sims and Alan McCain just in front. And Sims is really struggling since the start of this race to move forward. That is not to be expected. But to be fair, after we heard that he actually put the car in reverse on one of the starting grids at Silverstone International, well, hopefully he hasn't done that again, as Alan McCain there finds himself ping-ponged back and forth between Sims' car and Foster's car. That's not a happy place to be. That's between a rock and a hard place. But pounding the way down the start-finish straight, Foster right now holding on to what is third place here in the AM class, 15th overall. And we turn to defend from Daniel Moffat, who's trying to look around the outside of the Mario Kart machine. Here comes McCain to the inside, free wide. McCain being pinched there slightly, has to back off, but tried to go for it. There goes Moffat looking around the outside, but he runs out of tarmac, and with it, he runs into understeer. And now there is going to be Mark Pezza looking around the outside as McCain's very sideways there. Collects it back together. So that's a lovely bit of manoeuvring there from Mark Pezza, puts the pressure on, and now Paul Sims looks to go on the attack as they power the way onwards. But here we ride on board in towards the fast sweeping left-hand at a turn number 5. Well, that's what it looks like from Paul Sims' perspective, but then you look to the exterior pictures, and what you notice is he had to back off the throttle there, because otherwise he'd send the iRacing Esports car careening towards the tyre barriers, and well, he wouldn't be in the good books of the stewards, nor would he for Alan McCain if he did that. And McCain back up the inside there, retakes the place with a classic dive on the inside line, as meanwhile Mickey Ford, he goes on the position there, losing out versus Lenny Hansen. Hansen having started from the very back of the grid, he takes another place, moves up into 8th place now in the AM class, and we do see Valeria Tedeschi behind there completing your AM top 10. But back to the front of the field, and it looks as though it's line astern here. Everyone seems to have calmed down, and it is the classic game of follow the leader, as they say. Jamie Nuttall, your leader at the moment, in number 14, ahead of Twadok, followed by Petalin. Then it's Davidson ahead of newcomer Polici. But here comes Polici up the inside. Ooh, that is very, very cheeky from Polici there. That is one of those moves where you're essentially saying to the drivers in front of you, I'm coming, you're not going to turn into the corner, are you? Well, that was expecting Davidson to essentially make sure he didn't turn the steering lock, otherwise the two would have come together, and well, they both have the rule book thrown at them in the post-race stewarding room. But that's what you have to do sometimes. You have to be a little bit bold, and particularly for Eugenio, when he is new to the grid as well, he hasn't necessarily got those relationships he's formed with other drivers yet, so therefore he can get away with being a little bit cheeky and trying to assert a bit of authority here, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's not being daunted by the veterans of this grid, but as they come in towards turn number 7, what you can see as a result of this is actually brought his teammate Petalin a lot of breathing room to work with. So the absolute motorsport ace-lift driver here, I wouldn't be surprised if he's been told by his teammate, you know what, go have a bit of fun out there, go and annoy them, get in their way and help me get away. And what, in the process, he'll be looking to try and act as a bit of a rear gunner here as they power their way down the start-finish straight. The only problem is now he's on the inside line and he's got no car to slipstream off of, so he's going to have to tuck back in behind Sharp and Davidson as they head in towards turn number 1. But to be fair, I'm sure he's aware of that, as Nuttall, meanwhile, has up his inside Craig Tardot. Tardot goes into lead of this race. Now, we do know when we spoke to Jamie at Silverstone, he was saying after the race that he loves to lead these races. He doesn't mind losing the lead for a brief period of time, but he definitely wants to be the number 1 car in the running order because he feels that he can control the racing better when he is the lead car. But Craig Tardok has definitely caught on to that and said, you know what, I'm going racing today. I want a win. I think he's very eager to one-up himself in that 2nd place at Silverstone in the sprint, but he's got to try and find a way to beat Jamie Nuttall at the game of high-speed, high-stakes chess here. And, well, how do you beat a man who knows exactly where he wants to be on the tarmac? Well, you've got to be a bit unpredictable, and you've really got to not let him have his way. That is the game plan that Tardok's got to work with. He's got to constantly be pestering Nuttall. As meanwhile, that is a big send for Miles Owens all the way on the brakes at Artura Esports and gets it stopped on a dime versus at Bradley Horsenall. And right now, well, it's all the way to 12th place of pro drivers here, and they're all putting on an absolutely brilliant show as they power the way on through. But as they do, what else is to come next is going to be the question, as we do get the class colours there up on the timing out. They seem to have gone a bit wayward. We apologise for that, but they found their way back onto the tower. And more as the drivers make the way on through and around. Well, we are heading towards the halfway point of this race, folks. And just a reminder, if you're looking for the pros, they're denoted by the gold stripe against them in the time tower. Meanwhile, for the AMs, is the silvery white stripe there. And that's why Mav Gardner is currently your AM class leader. He's found his way into the AM class lead. And we'll look at that, pulling away from Janos Ventel and doing so rather quickly. But whilst we have a bit of a breather from the racing at the front, we need to take a look back at some of the moments at the start of this race, including what happened to Matt Smith right at the start. Now, this was the opening lap for Matt Smith, and oh, goodness me, a big moment there coming out of turn number 4. Car siphoning one way than the other, and the cracked racing driver, well, getting a bit of oversteer and just not able to keep it under control, and that put his race to the barrier, and very quickly, I believe, put him out of action. Then we had this on lap number 3 between Luke Smith and Valerio Tedeschi. Tedeschi being the chasing car here, Smith being the lead car in the pairing. Smith lost it, and Tedeschi under braking. Where did he end up in this? Well, he stopped the car there out of awareness, so being considerate was the privateer, and didn't want to get collected with Smith's wayward car that did a 360-degree spin. So great awareness on both drivers. We then had this on lap number 6 between Peza and Sims. This was only moments to go into turns 1 and 2. Mark Pez there all over the back of the car in front, and Sims tucked up the inside, and well, Pez was looking for a move on Moffat, and in the end he got turned by Sims, who was on the inside of him. Everyone queued up behind, and well, Martin Foster keeping a bit of a stern run on the brakes there, and they all just about survived that as we make our way back to your live racing. Now, in good time we do. We head into the second half of this race now, and coming back to the front of the field, it's getting very testy up here. Francesco Peterlin looking for the move for second place, and that is Craig Tardot there being knocked aside. I think Tardot there, a little bit of tap to the side of the car, decided to have to open up the steering wheel, and Peterlin says, okay, Craig, you've had your fun. I'm now going for the win here, and well, for Francesco Peterlin, he definitely wants a win in order to get himself right back into the championship hunt. Nuttall, meanwhile, will be taking a little bit of confidence from this, and I think he'll be thinking to himself, okay, if that's how they're all racing now, I need to start to break away. And well, Tom Davidson over the back of Peterlin at this point, so Nuttall trying to make the break, and Peterlin and Davidson giving the chase, with Twadot and Sharp, the next pairing, just ahead of Polici. It's getting a little bit gapped out here in terms of your leaders. And I won't be surprised now if this is going to become the equivalent of the MX-5 Tour de France, whereby we're going to have a leading pack that tries to break away. As Kieran Sharp there breaks away from the apex of turn number 3, completely misses the mark. He gives Polici the opportunity to get side by side with him coming into turn number 4. And it's not flat out through there in a clear bit of track, so too wide through there. It's a big lift and shift. But as they make their way towards turn number 5, they immediately reinstate the single file formation. And well, Sharp will be very grateful for that. But from them, Peterlin right now looking up the inside and the lead off of Nuttall. Well, it's in towards turn number 6. Jamie Nuttall there just holds his line. And, well, Peterlin, to be fair, being respectful, a bit of elbows out. Car sideways behind. And that was Polici going sideways. I think in a little bit of a rub there with Clibbins. Gets it back together. And Raven and Pike now side by side. And Andrew Pike, in fact, he's gained 3 places since the start of this race. He's trying to go for a 4th up the inside of Bart Raven. He's going to get it as they make their way out of the corner. And we jump aboard here with the gyrocam looking down off the roll cage of Bart Raven's cracked racing machine. And we're powering his way along at the moment. You can see there on the right, very gradually coming back into view, is the 57 of Pike. And we're building up that speed as Polici in front gives the toe to one, then the other. He's trying to get these two to fight each other by gifting them both a bit of slipstream. It's a bit of a tactical manoeuvre there. Under braking, they wind their way through turns 1, 2 and into 3 here. And now you'll start to see how the elevation change gradually plays out over the course of the lap. It's been relatively flat so far, but suddenly they descend through turn number 4 and in towards turn number 5, the lowest point of the circuit here, as they make their way around all the local terrain. And it's suddenly going to be a very quick rise coming out of turn number 5 here. They go over the crest, reaching what will be the highest point of the circuit, only then to come down to another low point. But right now for Bart Raven, he's in a bit of a low point at the moment because he has lost 3 places since the start of this race, and he would like to regain them where he can. But 5 minutes still left on the clock here, and right now in the sprint race, which Jamie Nuttall still leading overall in pro. Meanwhile, it's Mav Gardner who leads this race, and one of the things we have not seen is how exactly Mav Gardner made that move for the lead. But thankfully, due to the powers of replays, we can bring you that. And here it was only moments ago between Mav Gardner and Janos Venzel on lap number 4. So it was the run coming down the start-finish straight. You'll see Venzel there in the blue to aqua light blue machine, and Gardner just picked up a toe. I wonder whether Wenzel had a penalty. I think he had a slowdown penalty there because he's not carrying anywhere near the speed he normally would on that straight, and he gave up the slipstream there to the back of Clive Bourne's Cadbury Cream Egg Machine. So I think their track limits are quite Janus Wenzel, and that really has separated the two of them. I'll have to wait and see whether Wenzel can get back on the back of his rival right at the end. Meanwhile, Mark Peza versus Martin Foster. This is the battle for 5th place, and what's intriguing here is whilst Wenzel is in 2nd place at the moment, Martin Foster, championship leader in AMS, is having to fight here absolutely on a razor sharp edge for 5th place versus Peza. It is not the classic run of form here where you would expect that Martin Foster will be the driver who's trying to run away with things right now. So this is a turn for the books, and well, it's leading to a bit of intrigue here because of course they get 1 drop round per season, but Martin Foster right now, well, given the fact that he's previously dropped a 1st and a 9th for the Nürburgring, this is going to feel quite painful if this carries on, and it will really set him up to commit this to a drop score instead, as he forces Mark Pacer to have to look around the outside as Mickey Ford then makes small contact with Lenny Hansen. 2 wide coming out of the corner, and just unfortunately for Mickey Ford, rebounds off the side of his rival's car. No malice meant from either of them, but it sends him around, and with it sends him on down. He won't be happy about that whatsoever. He'll get back in the race, but now he's behind Paul Sims, who takes the place off him willingly there, and Ford back down to 9th place in the AM class after battling for 7th place for so long. But still, he falls, and he'll try to rise back up when he can. And whilst he tries to rise back up, it's absolute pandemonium here at the front of the field. Well, I don't think you can go 3 wide for a turn before. They almost did it there. That was, I believe, Twadok, Sharp and Polici. Polici backed off at the last moment. Run wide there for Nick Clibbins and the all-black iRacing Sports Machine. And coming down towards turn number 6 they do. Well, Andrew Pike right now battling side by side with Clemens, is on his inside. It gets very, very firm between the two of them. A bit of a lock-up under braking there from Bart Raven behind as he tries to keep it nice and tight on corner exit to sweep round the outside of turn number 7. The problem is now he's going to have a very long run in towards turn 8, and he immediately tucks back in behind. And then he's got no momentum to really work with here. And in front, well, Kieran Sharp and Craig Twadok, well, they're fighting quite hard for 4th place. And after Petterling got ahead of Twadok, in fact, the MSA Racing driver has been forced backwards over the course of the last couple of laps as we ride on board here with our 5th place driver in the 200. He's all over the back of the car in front of him of Sharp. But what can he do with this information? That is the problem, because behind is Polici. Well, as he turns on in, Eugenio Polici is so close at the moment. He's riding the rear bumper of his rival. You can't quite see that, but trust us when we say it. And as they come charging on out the corner, well, right now Twadok, he's as much looking forward as he is backwards. That's the difficulty of this racing. But you can see that they naturally will spread out a little bit for a brief moment before they start to come back together. And that is where the slipstream effect really starts to play its hand, as Big Pig Racing there gives us an absolutely brilliant metaphor, which is they're like a hive of angry wasps with the noise, and indeed absolutely right now looking to sting each other. And well, as they make their way into the braking zone, Andrew Pike looking side by side with Polici again. And well, to be fair to Eugenio Polici, he's fighting absolutely brilliantly here, enjoying himself, no doubt about it, although he started it in 3rd place. So I think he'll be a bit gutted to be down in 8th place at the moment, but that's the shuffle of the racing. And we're about to head on to the final lap, ladies and gentlemen, which means it's now Jamie Nuttall versus Francesco Petterlin and Tom Davidson for victory here. The white flag waves there as Barney Flag waves his right arm, and as they roar the way down, what can Petterlin do here to try and add a win to his championship run? Well, Jamie Nuttall, he knows about winning. He's taken the most wins of everybody in the pro class, and will right now holds a very nice line to turns 1, 2 and 3. Does not give any ground whatsoever. Trying to be absolutely smart with the position of the car, and now that smart is going to carry on here as he roars his way out to turn number 4. Tom Davidson, of course, is a bit of an element here. He's got the double draft, so Petterlin's got to keep an eye on what Davidson might be planning, and if I had to put some money on it, Tom Davidson, I think, will be looking for the send into this corner, into turn number 6. But Petterlin goes very sharp to the inside, pokes one way, then pokes the other. Davidson swaps back, and that was Petterlin reacting there, goes all the way deep into the corner, however, carries too much speed. Davidson's up the inside, Petterlin takes the escape road, rejoins back into 3rd place. Nuttall's still getting them to fight each other here. Jamie Nuttall doing everything right so far, but here comes Davidson, gets the inside, can't quite get it. Petterlin switches back to the outside. Nuttall right in the middle of the road here, and now Petterlin looking for the switch back. As he fights with Davidson, it's going to be a drag race to the line. The checker flag begins to wave, and for Jamie Nuttall, it's going to be 3 wins on the bounce here as he makes way across the line in race number 7 of the season. Ahead of Tom Davidson, who finishes 2nd. Francesco Petterlin takes the final spot on the overall pro podium. Ahead of Kieran Sharp and Craig Twadok. Nick Clemens finishes finishes 6th ahead of Andrew Pike and Eugenia Polici, with Bart Raven in 9th place ahead of Miles Owens, who completes your top 10. A well done there to Mav Garner, who takes the AM victory in 11th place ahead of Clive Bourne, with Janos Wenzel finishing runner-up in AM in 13th place ahead of Alan McCain. Daniel Moffat recovers to the podium there in the Mario Kart machine. That's the podium in AM, 3rd place in class, ahead of Bradley Horsnell, had the spin right at the end. David Long takes 4th place, his best result of the season in AM class. Well done to David for La Broca Racing Team, ahead of Martin Foster, who had a dismal end to his race. It didn't quite go right. 5th place in class, the RPMS SimSport driver, ahead of Mark Peza, who just outpaced Paul Sims to line for 6th place in the AM class. And, well, Sims finished 20th overall ahead of Mickey Ford, who with that spin lost out on a shot for a top 5 in the AM class. But to be fair, finished where he started 8th in AM, 21st overall, ahead of Valeria Tedeschi and then Lenny Hansen, just beating Luke Smith to line in the end. And that is how they've all finished this race, ladies and gentlemen, as they all call them down. And with it, let's take a look at those race results, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And goodness me, what a race it was for our first race a day here in round number 4 of the championship. So after 15 minutes of absolutely brilliant sprint racing action here at the Circuito de Navarra's medium speed circuit, Jamie Nuttall, your overall winner there and pro winner with it for Cracked Racing by only 1.5 tenths over the Sim Racing Collective Esports' Tom Davidson. Davidson left it all to the final lap and in the end was able to snag 2nd place off of Francesco Pettelin, but not the victory. And in the end, Pettelin having to settle for 3rd for Absolute Motorsport Ace. But to be fair, a bit of a different head on him in this one, a much more tactical head, and that's what we like to see. Kieran Sharp finished in 4th place there for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, a further what was 3 tenths behind, and in return 4 tenths ahead of Craig Twardock, who finished 5th for MSA Racing, at one point battling for the win, but still didn't quite work out in the end. But for him, he'll be happy with the fact that he got an opportunity to finish inside the top 5 once again, and at one point even led a bit of a lap. Nick Clemens took 6th place for iRace Esports, and behind him was a further 1.2 seconds to Andrew Pike, when the Sim Racing Collective Esports driver in the end fighting his way through to a valiant 7th, ahead of Eugenio Polici, the Absolute Motorsport A-Live driver there, new on the grid as of this round. Well, to be fair, 3rd place in qualifying has translated to an 8th place in the race, but what it means is he'll start 3rd again on the grid for race number 2 coming up shortly. Bart Raven took 9th place there for Cracked Racing, and then Miles Owens rounded off your top 10, and with it the Altura Esports driver puts himself on pole for race number 2. Mav Garner was unfortunate to miss out on pole position for race 2. He was a further 2nd behind, but still took the AM victory there. He'll be absolutely ecstatic about that for the Sim Racing Collective Esports. Head of Clive Bourne for Big Pig Racing by VRS, who end up fighting hard with Mav Gardner all the way through, and indeed had to keep Janos Wenzel behind him as well, but the German driver there finishing 2nd in the AM class after a slowdown robbed him of the lead. Alan McCain took 14th place for Iris Esports, ahead of Daniel Moffat, the privateer there finishing 3rd in the AM class and rounding off your overall top 15. Well done to Daniel for recovering to that 3rd place finish in the class, ahead of Bradley Horsnell, whose late spin cost him the opportunity to be inside that top 15 and even inside that top 10, it must be said. David Long took 17th place for La Broca Racing Team, 4th place in the AM class, his season best performance thus far, ahead of RPMS SimSports Martin Foster, who seemed to be struggling, and then Mark Peza and Paul Sims rounded off your top 20. Mickey Ford took 21st for FD Racing, enjoying the racing out there, no doubt about it, ahead of Valeria Tedeschi, with the privateer finishing only a 2nd ahead of Bottle Job Racing's Lenny Hansen, who started from the back of the grid, and then it was Luke Smith who completed all of your lead lap finishes, 24th there for FD Racing, a lap up on Matt Smith for Cracked Racing, and unfortunately it was retirements. They didn't make it on to the first lap for both Ben Hunter and Gareth Ronda for Greasy Bandits Racing and Cracked Racing respectively. So 27 starters, 25 finishers, of which 24 on the lead lap, ladies and gentlemen, and with that coming up very shortly is our second race of the day, our 30-minute feature. It's only about 10 seconds away, and well, the Circuito de Navarra once again will roar to the sound of 4-cylinder engines in, of course, on Mazda MX-5s. So as our drivers make the way to the grid once again, this is how they line up for our second and final race of the night. It is Miles Owens who takes the top 10 inverted pole position there for Altura Esports Pro and overall ahead of Bart Raven for Cracked Racing. The Dutchman there will seize this opportunity, I'm sure, because he knows he's got the pace to finish on the podium. He just needs an opportunity to show it. Eugenio Polici starts in 3rd for Absolute Motorsport A-Live. Keep your eyes out for him. He's definitely going to be going for the win straight from the outset, ahead of Andrew Pike for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, who can make his MX-5 wider than the most. Then we have Nick Clemens for iRace Esports starting in 5th place in the number 13 ahead of Craig Twardock for MSA Racing. in row at number 4, we've got Kieran Sharp, who starts 7th for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, ahead of Francesco Petalin for Absolute Motorsport Acelif. He'll once again be going for a podium as a minimum, if not the win. And then starting on the 5th row of the grid to complete your top 10, it's run up from race number 1, Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, ahead of 3-time-in-a-row winner Jamie Nuttall for Cracked Racing. If he can make it 4 in a row, he's definitely giving himself the favourite status after this round. Mav Garner, the AM winner, his first win of the season after back-to-back second places at Silverstone last week. He starts in 11th place for the Sim Racing Collective Esports Best of Rest, ahead of Clive Bourne for Big Pig Racing by VRS. And then we do have on row number 7, the pairing of Janus Wenzel, the privateer, run up in the AM class from race 1, ahead of Alan McCain, the Irishman for iRacing Esports. From the pro of Alan McCain, it's then the AM and pro pairing of Daniel Moffat, the third place AM starter, ahead of Bradley Horsnell. And then from the pro driver at Horsnell, it's David Long and Martin Foster for La Broca Racing Team and RPMS SimSport respectively, who make up your 9th row. Row number 10, we have Mark Pezza looking to move forward once again ahead of Paul Sims, who seemed to have a good start initially, but he fell down the order as the race went on. He rounds off your top 20, with Mickey Ford there for FD Racing looking to avoid the spin and go for the win, starting from 21st place, ahead of Valerio Tedeschi, who starts 22nd. Row number 12, it's going to be Lenny Hansen for Bottle Job Racing and Luke Smith for FD Racing. And on the final full row of the grid, it's Matt Smith for Cracked Racing ahead of Ben Hunter for Greasy Bandits Racing, with Gareth Ronda starting 27th, last but not least, for Cracked Racing there and looking to move forward from the outset and hopefully gets to go racing at this time. Well, that's how they all line up, ladies and gentlemen. And as we look all the way back towards the front of the grid, well, we are set for our second and final race of the day here in Spain. Indeed, race number 8 of the championship is coming up. Miles Owen starts in pole position for it, but Bart Raven in the very colourful lime greeny yellow and pink purpley machine looks to give it everything there. And indeed, right now he'll be looking to buzz like a hornet, but all the wasps of these MX-5s will be absolutely nattering the way down towards turn number 1. But who's going to be the one who comes out of the first 3 corners? Your leader. That's what we wait to see as our last cars make the way onto the grid. Well, the last couple of cars get into position. Ben Hunter and Gareth Ronda both not in their cars, so I do believe we may have lost them once again, unfortunately, from this race. So it means we've got a 25-car grid, and here come the lights. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4, it's 5 lights. And it's lights out and away we go here for our 30-minute feature race as Miles Owens pulls away. Bart Raven with him there. No real difference between the two of them on the initial launch phase, but now Raven gets a much better run into second and third gear. And as they coming towards turn number 1, surely Raven's going to have the inside line here. Look at Polici behind, just watching it, playing it smart, not trying to get involved too much. But Raven there under braking. Well, he's going to force Owens out wide. Polici there backs off. Twardok's had a monster start, and Twardok already up into third place almost there. Gets boxed out though as they make the way towards turn number 4. So Twardok right now the king of the launches, it would seem. And coming down through turn number 4, cold tyres and a bit of sideways movement from Petalin in the rear of the picture. But all of our drivers saved them through the opening bend. But as they roar the way through, again out wide there, Polici's using all the tarmac plus a little bit more. We call that VAT, value added tarmac. And as they come down to the braking zone here, Bart Raven has definitely put himself into lead this race, even if he has to mount a curb or two. And that's contact there between Owens and Twardok. Twardok there in the Martini Racer machine really coming across and giving a little bit of a door rub there to Owens' car, but Owens still holds against the test of the MSA Racer machine. And Polici on the outside, really confident in his outside lines here as the number 7 driver. He feels as though he's got a lot more pace, but come the end of lap number 1, Bart Raven leads as they head on to lap number 2, and they've got plenty ahead of them. Oh, goodness me, that is a car on around in the rear of the picture. I'm trying to see who that was. Was that Lenny Hansen who's gone around? Yes, it's Lenny Hansen to the barrier, and we'll have to get a replay of that when we can. But Hansen has been spun right at the end of lap number 1. That's not the way he's wanted to go, but we'll have to wait and see what exactly calls that, as Owens, meanwhile, goes out very wide there at turn number 3, runs out of tarmac to work with, and that's what happens on that outside line. As meanwhile, Bart Raven goes on around, almost gets collected out. I don't know how they all avoided him as he was going 90 degrees sideways to everybody else, but I get the feeling that right now even Bart Raven doesn't know how he got there, but he knows he's been able to survive it. And drops all the way to the bottom end of the top 10. In fact, he's down to 12th place here, and he might even lose out 12th to what will be Janus Wenzel, as Mav Gardner right now is pushing forward with Daniel Moffat right behind him. And there's the Mario Kart machine of Moffat, the privateer, who's had an incredible incredible start to this race. He's leapt up to 11th place from a 15th place start, and right now he's looking to try and make it back onto that podium with certainty. However, we can tell you one thing, Bart Raven is not going to let this go. He's going to try and scramble in, and Mav Gardner right now will be hoping that the pro drivers are out of position. Both Raven and Bourne both get involved a little bit more. Martin Foster moving forward as well. So we do have the big names in the M class. They all seem to have settled themselves down coming into this feature race. The sprint seems to be a little bit of an anomaly, but it does seem as though at least now Wenzel and also Moffat and Foster have all regained some confidence going into this one. And well, it's lovely to see Paul Sims is also there with them as he makes his way into that braking zone, and we're hopeful that Sims can get involved here because he showed so much pace and performance in the opening round of the championship, and ever since then it seems to have gone very backwards. He gets a lovely run there versus Bourne coming out of turn number 3, but Bourne's on the inside, so therefore he will regain the place in the 807 Cadbury Cream Egg machine on the left of your picture. And well, goodness me, I don't keep saying about Cadbury Cream Eggs for the simple reason that I'm feeling hungry, folks, I swear, although I could just have a bit of chocolate. But right now, something sweet for Paul Sims would be end this one with a podium as he makes his way in towards turn number 6. But to do so, he's got to be a bit smart here, and well, that's getting very elbows out there between Moffat and also Foster, the two championship rivals, definitely putting each other under pressure. But Janos Wenzel is pulling away from them, so I think they need to keep in mind the fact that whilst they may be fighting between each other first and third in the championship, the second place man is currently running away, and that's contact there as Sims had nowhere to go, and already I believe Daniel Moffat was going around and Sims just helped him go around right at the end there. And well, it looks like Sims had made well, not Sims, Moffat had made a bit of a mistake under braking, and subsequently Sims just came into the scene at the wrong time in order to help him on his way. And well, I'm sure they'll have a conversation about that one after the race, but I don't think there's anything Sims could have done in reality, as Clive Bourne and David Long and also Bradley Horsdale will queue up on the back of this now. And Horsdale trying to recover here after a dismal end to race number 1 with that late spin. Right now he wants to get himself right back inside that top 10. He's got top 10 pace, but the problem is he's a long way away from it. And when you are in these packs, it's very hard to make that progress, as we can see Sims and Bourne once again fighting side by side into turn number 5. And that's only going to reduce the average pace of their race by a tenth or two over a lap. But that tenth or two is worth a huge amount of time in MX-5 racing. Tenths are the equivalent to minutes in other classes of racing in MX-5s, because every tenth matters most as they roar the way out of turn number 6. But from them, we look back to your leader, and Eugenio Polici has taken the lead of this race over the last couple of laps. Has been away with Kieran Sharp following him, and Craig Twardock is fighting hard with Miles Owens. Now, Owens has fallen down to 4th place. Twardock has found his way forward. Remember, Owens, despite the battles at the front, really seen him on the outside of most corners, he was holding on to that 2nd place quite happily, but now he seems to have dropped the ball to a degree, and I can imagine that's where everybody's been trying to push their way through. Davidson there side by side with Petalin. And Petalin right now taking a bit of an approach of, I'm going to use that outside line. I think he's taken a leaf from the pages of his teammate, who feels very confident, but running that wide out, there's no grip out there on the runoff area, and he suddenly discovers that as the car goes very sideways as it drops off the exit curb and onto the green rumble strip. But heading in towards turn number 5. Well, right now, Tom Davidson already providing a little bit of a cork in the bottle here as he tries to keep everybody behind him. But here comes the scrambles. They all look left, right and centre. Jamie Nuttall, he's going to try and go up the middle of the pair of them. That's bold. A little bit of room needs to be given there to Miles Owens, which he does so very well. Backs off a little bit earlier compared to what Owens did in the braking zone there to make sure he did not clip the rear quarter panel of the very colourful 74, and Jamie Nuttall does in the end through turn 6 into 7, moving to 5th place there. He's playing this very smart. He's very gradually climbing the ladder of cars here. His next target is Davidson, and then he's got to overhaul a 7.5 tenth gap to Craig Twardock, who if he carries on this way, Twardock may be able to make a bit of a breakaway here, so we are on the precipice of it. Meanwhile, Kieran Sharp here immediately back up the inside of Polici. Polici doesn't fight it at all. He knows what's up here. He knows if he works with Sharp, they may be able to pull away from the rest of the field. However, they don't work together, or they can't now. This Twardock will bring them all back into the pack. And when we do have a top 12 separated by only 4 seconds in totality, with Sharp at one end of the stick and meanwhile Raven at the other end, you can see him there in the very colourful machine right at the back of the group, and we focus on him. Well, right now, anybody in this pack makes a mistake and it could suddenly see it split wide open. Nobody, however, wants to fight too hard because they're all wary of the fact fighting here is only going to cost them a huge amount of time, as that is going to be a big look up the inside there for Mav Gardner and also Jonas Wenzel. Wenzel tries to follow Gardner through. You can understand why. Wenzel does not want to let Mav Gardner make it back-to-back victories. The first time this season in the YAM class if that were to happen, and that's why Andrew Pike now is getting involved here and trying to help his teammate out, but also because Wenzel right now just naturally is proven to be a bit of a fly in the ointment of the race of Andrew Pike. Pike getting his elbows out as much as he possibly can, but Raven gets onto the back of this, and suddenly they fall a whole second off the back of Mav Gardner. So as quickly as that, they lose the time. Can they get it back? And well, if it gets to 1.5 seconds, they are practically at the verge of losing the slipstream, and that will be the big worry. But in towards turn 1 they come, and Wenzel right now just watches as Raven and Pike fight each other. The two pros here really holding the YAM driver back at this point. He'll feel, and he looks up the inside of Raven, a little bit of tap to the inside, but nothing major of it. And Wenzel right now trying to battle his way through. Now, we have been looking at the top 12 for quite a bit. We do know there are other drivers out there, so let's take a look at them, including Valerio Tedeschi, as he goes chasing after Daniel Moffat. And Moffat, of course, involved in that instant earlier on, which we owe you a replay of, ladies and gentlemen. Well, he's breaking away now. He's found his way past Tedeschi on the previous lap. So Moffat up into 9th place of the YAMs, and Tedeschi down into 10th or 23rd overall. However, where things are getting a bit more intriguing is we do have a second pack of cars, really. A big pack here it is. And at the very front of it is none other than Clive Bourne for Big Pig Racing by VRS, as he has Paul Sims breathing down his neck, and then Alan McCain and Bradley Horsnell. And Horsnell here trying to make his way past fellow pro driver of McCain. That's the battle for 12th place in their class. And you've got Mark Pez and Mickey Ford, David Long and Matt Smith all together. And Ford here right now trying to make up for what happened in race number 1. He's doing a brilliant job of it so far. He started 8th in class, or what was 21st overall, and he is making that progress very happily. As he powers his way down the straight, here comes Long, picks up a bit of a distant tow there off the back of Pez's car, as Pez are using the tactic of gifting the slipstream to both drivers there to make them fight into a corner. And meanwhile, look at Daniel Moffat, well, he's a bit further back, but Matt Smith says, I'm going to go around the outside of the pair of you if I can. And well, lovely move there for the cracked racing driver, and he's made that work to move into 20th or 7th in the AM class. But meanwhile, Mickey Ford doing a fantastic job of trying to pull away a little bit and enjoying himself out there. Meanwhile, teammate Luke Smith, conversely, a bit further off the pack, coming in 24th, but to be fair, turning in the laps, and you never know what could happen. But with that, we take a look back at some of the moments that did happen early on in the race. Now, this was lap number 1, starting with Alan McCain for iRacing Esports. What happened to him here? He was turned around the front of Clive Bourne's car. Ooh, goodness me, and Bradley Horsnell doing very well to stamp the brakes on right at the end. And what we also did see there, a little bit of moment for Luke Smith in the rear of the picture as McCain rejoined behind Smith. So that's what happened to Alan McCain right at the start of the race. Then we had this at the end of lap number 1 for Lenny Hansen as he made his way through the final corner. Lovely switchback move there, but unfortunately comes across and interdicts with the path there of Mark Pez's car, and Hansen to the barrier there, unfortunately, but thankfully able to get it out of the barrier with just a light amount of damage. We then had this on lap number 3 for Luke Smith. He was running by himself at the time into turns 1, 2 and 3, but what exactly happened to Smith is the question we needed the answer to. A bit too much speed, plenty of enthusiasm, a potent combination, and it sends him sideways through turn number 3, but gets it stopped quite well. Well done to Luke for that. Then on this lap number 3, we did see Daniel Moffat get involved in a bit of a moment, and this was coming out of turn number 7 in towards 8. This was the Concertina bash, and that was on the back of Foster, and Sonny taps the back of Foster, gets catapulted backwards towards Sims. Paul Sims had nowhere to go, and Daniel Moffat turned around, and a very frustrating moment in his race as he sent all the way to the back. That would be the equivalent of banana skin, essentially, if we were playing Mario Kart. But thankfully, we're not throwing any shells at each other right now, folks, and as they make the way on out, but right now, Kieran Sharp, we hoping no blue shells are heading his way as we put the Nintendo puns back in the proverbial box. But coming across that timeline, a third of the race complete. We still got another 20 minutes plus the final lap to go, and all these drivers right now keeping themselves honest as they head on down, and Sharp leading this race only by a sliver, with Palici right behind him, and then you can see Twadot, Nuttall and Davidson all queuing up, and Miles Owens on the back of this now. Petalin meanwhile a bit further back in quite a bashed up car at the front end. In fact, that front bumper looks like it's being held on with a bit of gaffer tape, or what would be the proverbial black tape as we like to refer to it, as he makes his way on through. But as he comes on down here, well, I think for Pettany, he's definitely been in a few bruises, and he'll be hoping for not too many more, because otherwise that front bumper comes loose. It's got to be a lot of aerodynamic drag, and also it's a risk of having to come into the pits to have it put back on the car. But meanwhile, there's some moves afoot here as Jamie Nuttall dives up the inside. Contact there with Palici. Palici turned around. It causes them all to Constantine up, and well, a lot of enthusiasm there for Nuttall, but I think a bit too much as it's forward wide into turn number 7 and squeezes well the inside is Nick Klim as he takes all 3 of them. The iRacing Esports driver very bold and brave, gets that done, and Nuttall back up the inside there. But I think for Jamie, he'll be ruining what could have been when he was a bit enthusiastic with that move initially, and that's enabled the top two now to break away. And Kieran Sharp has a gold opportunity here. He's a second clear as they cross the timeline from Twardock. Twardock, meanwhile, is 1.3 seconds clear of Clibbins, and well, if those two now keep their foot in it, they may be able to just run off into the distance here, and our top two may be able to make this race themselves. Nick Clibbins right now has the unenviable task of trying to reel them back in, as meanwhile Polici versus Nuttall. Nuttall on the outside that uses the runoff area. He'll get away with that once or twice, but he won't be able to keep doing it. And then we can see Davidson and Gardner queuing up behind here. It is getting very much gloves off at this point between all these drivers, and I wouldn't be surprised here if right now they're all trying to push each other to the absolute limit on the basis that they want to get something done. And I think under the Spanish sun, some tempers are starting to flare up as well. I can't blame them. It's a very different climate here from the United Kingdom at the moment. Indeed, a very different circuit compared to Silverstone last time out, as Pike comes in blazing hot, taps the rear of Pettelin's car. He was tapped on the rear by Raven, I believe. Oh, goodness me, it is door to door between these two. You would think they were racing touring cars at the moment, and well, I can tell you one thing, Pike is definitely a touring car racer at heart, a TCR driver, but right now as they head onto the brakes, dives back up the inside there, and well, Pettelin getting very firm with it. These two right now, you can definitely tell there's a little bit of red mist descending out here. We love to see a little bit of it, but hopefully they keep it relatively clean. We don't want to see both cars in the barriers at the end of the day, or even one of them. We don't, use a touring car phrase, want to end up seeing a Plato Neal situation. Far from it, but as they come in towards turn one, we're petting up the inside here, and I think he's saying to Andrew Pike, okay, if you really want this, I'm now going to be the biggest inconvenience you've ever met on the circuit. I'm going to put the car where it doesn't belong. And Pike says, okay, fair enough, I'll just tuck in behind you for now, but remember, you give it, you've got to take it as well. And both drivers there are definitely going to be giving it to each other over the distance, as Bart Raven, meanwhile, for an off track, has picked up a slowdown. He's going to have to burn that on the run through turn 5 onto turn 6. That is going to cost him the best part of 2 seconds here. Raven is going to fall out of this pack unless they all fight each other again. But Jamie Nuttall, meanwhile, comes blazing into that braking zone. Outbreaks himself coming down to turn number 6, and as he does so, he makes the move on Nick Clemens, only to then have to go fully defensive in towards turn number 7, as Clemens now will try to chip him around the outside to the inside of turn number 8, and behind Tom Davidson, meanwhile, is watching this right now and probably trying to interpret when's the best place to attack. But Andrew Pike still battling with Pettelin, and Jos Wenzel right behind. Mav Garner, the leading Amdra, is in amongst all this, and Wenzel right now is trying to get a bit closer, but I think he would ideally like Pettelin and Pike to stop fighting each other, because he really is at the mercy of them right now, as Mav Garner is the rear car behind Miles Owens that's just gone for our camera shot. Pettelin and Pike are side by side. Wenzel watching this, and like a hawk thinking, what can he do? We jump on board here with Janos Wenzel, and this gives you an idea of what he's having to experience, as in the end he just plays it safe, tucks in nice and tight to the inside. Pike almost completely losing it there coming out to turn number 3, and well, as they make the way down through 4 and 5 right now for Janos Wenzel, I do not envy this man. He is doing an incredible job of just playing the game of waiting and watching. Many drivers at this point would get panicky, or they would get jittery and try to force a move on the situation, but not dear Janos here. He is being very clever and just putting the car in the right place to be as safe as possible, because at the end of the day, if he does pick up another second place in the AM class, it's still some big points as he makes his way forward, and I don't think he'll be too upset about that, given the fact it would mean that he would go into round number 5 in a week's time at the Watkins Glen Cup circuit, as I believe currently your championship leader if the points were to stay as they were. But we will see what comes of it as they make their way down towards another lap. They do head on to lap number 14 now, and we reach the halfway point of this race, and we head to the back half of the grid, because we do see Clive Bourne there, and currently in pursuit of none other than Alan McCain, with Bradley Horsnell looking for a move. Horsnell in the green machine on the left-hand side of your picture, Bourne on the right-hand side in the Cadbury Cream Egg coloration machine, and just in front is Alan McCain for Irish Esports, pulling the pair along as they head in towards turn number 1. Horsnell up the inside, looking for that 12th place. He's going to try and sneak it in the pro class. 15th place overall off of Clive Bourne. He'll do that, and Alan McCain will try to break away. Further back, Daniel Moffat fighting side by side with Mark Hazer. He's still on his charge through the field, is Moffat, after that spin earlier on, and well, here it's getting very close, as that is also Lenny Hansen, who unfortunately is a lap down, so he has to respect the blue flags. He does so there, as Mickey Ford in the end also makes his way through on a slightly off-centered line, but making the way around. Ford has dropped away from this battle to a degree. I believe he did have a bit of a spin on a previous lap, and in fact we have got a replay of what happened to Ford on lap number 9. We will present that to you very shortly, folks, because he was at the time battling for 5th place in AM, but meanwhile Daniel Moffat under pressure from Peza here, and the South African second driver looks at a move. He's not going to get it initially, but does he get it here on the exit? No, he does not. He's huffing and puffing for it, but unfortunately with no success as they come from left into right-hander. And right now the number 10 driver here just holding on. David Long is his next target, the 6th place AM runner, and then it will be Paul Sims and Matt Smith. That will really be the end of that pack. Before then it's a long gap to Clive Bourne up in 16th place. Down the start for this stretch they go, and as they do we take a look back at what exactly happened to Mickey Ford on lap number 9. Now, this was Ford at the time. He was chasing after Mark Pazer. He's in the middle of the camera right now. Under braking there, the FD Racing driver. Oh, a tap to the rear of Ford's car. Now, that was a tap from the cracked racing machine, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken. That was the car there making contact of Matt Smith. So Smith in the end getting it wrong under braking and sending Ford on the round. So Ford won't be too pleased about that. And I can imagine that Matt right now in the car will be thinking to himself, or have thought to himself at the time, I should say, that that's going to probably go to the stewards after the race, but there's nothing he can do at this point. He's just got to move forward. He can't really address it. Andrew Pikes into the pit lane. That is for the reaching of the instant point counts. That's a drive-through penalty he's going to have to serve. And, well, we do apologise if you get a bit confused at the fact he leaps up the time tower, but the way the pit entry line is, as, oh, could this be Alan McCain, has a huge snap coming out the final corner. And that is a huge bit of oversteer there that suddenly snaps the car to the gravel. He brings it back together, but that was completely unexpected. So he loses out there versus Horsdale, Foster and Bourne. And in fact now falls behind them quite a distance as Bradley Horsdale, well, he's trying to make sure that Martin Foster doesn't get through here. And I think Foster's very eager to make some progress. The only problem is the next AM driver for Foster is none other than Janos Wenzel, who is the best part of 10 seconds up the road. So therefore, for Martin Foster at this point is really just battling for an overall position here and hoping that something potentially goes wrong and it triggers a safety car of some description. Alternatively, Janos Wenzel and Mav Garner both end up going much slower. Perhaps they pick up damage. That's the thought process he's got to take, but he's not going to be making any headway here in terms of class positions, and the difference will be that Matt Smith, 6 seconds behind, is rather rapidly closing. He is gaining on average half a second a lap versus Foster, where the fact that Foster is entangled in all that battling. So Smith could be a bit of an element here, albeit keep in mind he has got some damage on the front end of that car, so he will be losing some straight line speed and also some entry rotation into the corners. But back to the very front of the field and coming back to your leading pro driver, it's now Craig Twardock who leads with Kieran Sharp. These two are what places they've been fighting, and they've brought the rest of the pack back together here, so they were not able to make the break that we theorised they might be able to do as we ride on board and look back for a new race leader. Now for Twardock at this point, I think he's very keen to make sure he finishes inside the top 5 as a minimum, but the confidence he's brought here today versus Silverstone, you can definitely tell now the back-to-back top 5s, including that second place in race number 1 at Silverstone, it's put into Twardock's mind, you know what, I can do this, I can fight for podiums here versus these drivers. As Sharp goes up his inside, there comes a move, a tap to the rear quarter suspension, and that is going to send Twardock very deep into the corner. That's not going to help at all. A tap on the rear there from Nuttall, and as they bring it back together, well, right now Twardock will be a bit frustrated at that one because that was a prang and it could have been a very nasty knock to the rear of the car. Comes blazing on the brakes there, I think for a brief moment. Well, it was the devil taking over the wheel, but he moves back into third place, and Polici, to be fair, saw it coming from a mile out and said, I do not want to get in the way of that. Twardock right now going absolutely razor hot on the brakes, and we can see it there. Now it's all about place your bets on the best horse as they head in towards turn number 1, and well, it is going to be there, I believe, Davidson who covers off Polici as they head in towards the corner. Twardock in the middle of the road, and then Clibbins backs off behind in towards turn number 3, and it is still Davidson there, at least for a brief moment. The number 7 car looks on, but the problem it's got is Nick Clibbins is on its inside to outside, and then Miles Owens is still in amongst this, and Mav Garner, the AM leader, just sit there behind, and well, he's just watching this earnestly right now with no real way in, but conversely, of course, no real way out of this one, because it's the only way is to go forward at this point, particularly with Janos Wenzel very gradually inching towards him. But under the scramble and down in towards turn number 6, anything new this time? Not really. Davidson up the inside. He does get a nose ahead, so Davidson might get this a 4th place for now, but Polici is going to come back at him in towards turn number 7. Side by side they come through the corner. Polici, of course, now to the outside of turn number 8. This is where Davidson can really stretch the corner onto the apex, and he does so, and Eugenio Polici will then tuck into the toe here as they drag race the way onto the next lap. But of course, they'll keep doing this all the way to the final lap, and we should apologise for when we said Nuttall made the contact to the back of Twardock's car. It was Polici's car, and in fact you can see there, look at the damage on the right-hand side of the camera. That's the front left of the car, how mangled it is as a result of that big contact on the rear right of Twadot's car. And we're looking around the outside. There is Polici in towards turn number 2. That's brave, and to be fair, gets it nicely hooked up side by side, but he runs out of Racing Road in the end as Davidson plays it respectfully all the way to the exit of turn number 3. But Polici is with him now as they come through 4, down into 5, side by side into the braking zone. And Miles Owens, meanwhile, he's watching this as Nick Clearance forces his way out the inside. 3 wide they come out the corner. Here comes Owens to try and make it 4 wide, powering the way down. Owens is going to try and go all the way around the outside. This is brave from the Altor Esports driver. He's got a lot of guts here, and well, can he pull it off? He pulls off 1. He gets ahead of Nick Clearance. Can he make it 2 versus Davidson? I think he might be able to. It's going to be a drag race into turn number 7. Owens is still there. Davidson respects the fact he's there, but Owens hasn't got enough leverage here into the final quarter, so in the end he is going to have to back off, and Clearance now will see that door's back open. But Miles Owens definitely positioned himself very well there to try and go for that move. He gave it everything he could, but pounding their way down the start for the straight. Well, from them, we must come back to the battle for 6th place in the AM class, because there's plenty of points up for grabs here if your name's Daniel Moffat, David Long and Mark Pezza. And in fact, Daniel Moffat has made his way past the pair of them over the last couple of laps. He is continuing to make the progress that he has been craving, and he's been enjoying a good little ding-dong battle with Long, has Moffat. And in terms of how it played out between them, here's a replay. Now, this was lap 18, where it was the start of the battle, and this was Moffat diving up the inside along into the final corner as they were chased after the 50-son of Andrew Pike. So Moffat initially getting ahead, but then Long deciding, you know what, let's go for it, and he out-dragged his rival down the start finish straight. Let's get a nose slightly ahead as they hit the timeline, with Andrew Pike gifting a little bit of slipstream. So on to lap number 19 they went, and then David Long managed to creep ahead, at least for a brief moment, at which point Moffat then went back ahead of him in towards turns 1, 2 and 3, and that's how Daniel Moffat finally got the move done. And Mark Pezza looked to a move on Long there, and he went for it, and what an attempt it was, albeit as they exited the bend. It was then the switch back to the left-hander that gave Long the place back. But back to live racing, and we come immediately back, and oh my good lord, it's drama at turn number 6. You could not have timed that any worse as we come back, and well, Andrew Pike and Paul Sims are both in drama, and Paul Sims once again ends up in tears here. Another circuit where he was looking strong, and it's all gone so horribly wrong. But what exactly happened to Pike and Sims? Here's a quick replay to explain. So it was in the run down towards turn number 6. Pike on the left of your picture, Sims in the middle, and were under brake, and they came across each other, and the initial contact unsettled both cars. Sims came back, collected Pike again, and well, both of them there to the barrier, and I think both drivers will look back at that one. Who came across whom's going to be the question. The camera angle there would suggest that Pike slightly came across before the braking zone, but to be fair, that's only one camera angle. We don't have all of them. That's what our stewards will have, folks, and that's why we're not going to make any calls there. But unfortunate for both drivers, who are both looking for a decent result, particularly Paul Sims. And well, right now it's all in arrears in the pits. But back to your live racing. 5 minutes left on the clock when they cross the timeline this time around. And you do the quick mathematics, it means we have got the best part of 5 more laps of racing as we turn onto lap number 22 here in our 30-minute feature race at the Circuito de Navarra. And Kieran Sharp leads ahead of Craig Twaddock, with Jamie Nuttall trying to find his way through. But there is Eugenio Polici just behind, watching as Nuttall makes the move for second place here into turns 1 and 2. Does he get it done before 3? The answer is yes, no, maybe, as he comes through the right-hander. And well, Twaddock right now is going to watch this, and now will he go for the move here into 4? Yes, he does. He goes for the counter-attack. This is going to be intriguing, because now Nuttall's going to find that the narrative is being spun a slight different way here, which is Twaddock would rather fight for second than settle in and see what can happen from third. But the idea here is that Twaddock right now wants to absolutely dig his teeth into this fight, and I think he's found his pace and his momentum, and he wants to make sure that Nuttall is not going to make it 4 on the bounce in terms of wins. Dating all the way back to Silverstone International, he picked up both wins there, and there'll be a huge run. We do have a black flag for Tom Davidson, by the way. He comes in. That is a drive-through penalty for track limit, so Davidson is into the pit, and that's another big question that is outstanding before the checker flag. Does anybody else have an instant point count that's very close to the maximum of 17? If anybody does, we could be at risk here of seeing this race dictated by drive-through penalties right at the end of it. So therefore, keep your eyes out. If some drivers are very hesitant to fight each other, And that may be an indication that they do not have many instant points left to take. Remember, you pick up 4 instant points for contacts if they're deemed to be excessive contacts for another car, and that's applied to both cars, not just the one that makes the contact, whoever it is. And you also get 1 instant point every time you conduct an off-track where all 4 wheels go beyond the white lines that define the racing surface. So that's why drivers have got to be careful, because over 30 minutes, those 17 instant points very quickly accrue. They are exhausted well before you even get to the halfway point for certain drivers some days. And while our top 4 scrambles its way into the braking zone here for turn number 6 this time, well, Kieran Sharp right now making sure he's right at the front, which is where he wants to be. Behind them, then we do have Miles Owens in 5th. He's bringing along with him Nick Clemens, Mav Garner, who's the AM leader, and Francesco Petelin. And then we have Janos Wenzel, still 2nd in the AM class here, and not really with anything in terms of being able to catch up to Mav Gardner. But to be fair to him, I think his focus right now is just making sure he gets this 2nd place in class and brings Bart Raven along for the ride with him. As Martin Foster, meanwhile, 3rd in the AM class. Very similar pitch here, battling more with pros at this point rather than having any AMs around him. Daniel Moffat, meanwhile, he can't say the same. The 4th place AM driver has got Matt Swift, David Long and Mark Peza behind him. And all 4 of these drivers are all AM drivers contesting the first spot off of the AM podium. Brilliant racing between them. And, well, credit where it's due. We have seen some absolutely brilliant racing from David Long and Mark Peza here today. Matt Smith as well has been getting firmly in the battle with them, albeit a little bit of cloud hanging over his race after that contact earlier on with Mickey Ford. And well, I'm sure that Matt Smith has looked well beyond that now. In fact, he's focused on the race, and that's what you have to do as a driver. You have to put it out your head and then go and deal with it after the race is complete. But David Long right now trying to look for a long shot there in towards turn number 2. Can't quite find it, has to stop the car before it goes sideways. And Mark Payes there just watching right now as those brake discs still going red hot at the front of these MX-5s. And I can imagine tyre life right now is definitely worse aware. But back to the front, 2 more laps to go as Jamie Nuttall looks up the inside there of Craig Twardock for 2nd place. Kieran Sharp, meanwhile, really being the one trying to play them along. He's trying to be the puppet master here, as you can see, pulling over to the side of the road. That is Luke Smith, who doesn't want anything to do with this, but they all want the slipstream off of him. So therefore, they all tuck him behind the slow-moving MX-5 from FD Racing, only starting to build up the speed as they come down in towards turn number 1. And I can imagine that Luke Smith behind the car right now must have been thinking to himself, please don't hit the rear of me, all of you. And indeed, that would have been a sight not one we avoid to see, folks. But right now, this is absolutely edge of your seat stuff here as Kieran Sharp looks to hold on. And well, keep in mind statistically, as they make the way on through for Kieran Sharp, if he does bring home this victory, well, it will be only his 2nd win of the season, and it will be his 2nd win in a feature race as well. He's only taken victories in feature races. He's been making quite the habit of it. However, Craig Twardock's got something to say about it. Jamie Nuttall's got something to say about it as he chases down his 5th win of the season. Up the inside of Twardock there. Twardock on the outside, now to the inside of 7, but immediately decides to cut back in behind there to cover Polici, who's now back on this. And look, Miles Owens, Nick Clewins and Petelin, they've all caught up as well here. So the top 7 is now back together as we head on to a final lap of racing as the Quito de Navarra in race number 8 of the championship here. Here they go. And as they roar the way down, Kieran Sharp leads, but will he be leading when it matters most at the finish line next time around? Well, here we go, folks. They come down towards turn number 1. Sharp immediately goes defensive. Nuttall looking around the outside. Twardock, meanwhile, backs up there and just watches. At this point, it's Nuttall versus Sharp, at least into turns 1, 2 and 3. Sharp's got the inside, but takes a lot of apex curve. It unsettles the car, but he stops it in time. Twardock back on the inside there. Bit of a rub to Nuttall's car, but it's not going to make any difference as they come on through. We ride on board with the 3rd place man here. He's in the popcorn seat view as he looks to try and get involved, but Nuttall right now pulling away a little bit. He's definitely got the speed over through turns 4 and 5. He's going to look around the outside, looking for a bit of a switchback run as they come up the hill. He's got the overspeed, but as he called it too soon, he may have here. Sharp's going to go defensive. Nuttall's going to try and go around the outside for the lead of this race. On to the brakes they go. Nuttall turns in. Sharp's there with him. Twardock now gets absolutely firmly within the grips. I think Nuttall's overcooked it, folks, as they make the way in towards turn number 7. Sharp right now is only a quarter away. Twardock here's going to fight Nuttall all the way to the turn 8 apex. Sharp's just got to put himself in the middle of the road, and I think he might get it done. They come out the final corner, the checker flag waves, and Kieran Sharp is going to become a 2-time winner this season, surely, as he heads to the line in the drag race. Twardock's right behind him. Nuttall's held out to dry, but is it going to be Twardock or Nuttall in 2nd? Sharp takes the the victory most definitely. Twardok just takes second by a sliver there, head of Nuttall. Eugeni Polici's fourth ahead of Owens, followed by Clemens, Francesco Petalin, and Mav Gardner makes it victory here in race number 2 of the day. Ahead of Bart Raven and Tom Derriton in the AM class. You've got to look back to 14th place, where you see your AM runner-up, Martin Foster. What happened to Janos Wenzel, I wonder? David Long, meanwhile, in a complete turn of events, Long is going to take home his first podium of the season here in AM class for the Brocker Racing team, ahead of Matt Smith. I believe Janos Wenzel may have had a bit of an instant right at the end. Alternatively, picked up a drive-through penalty, one of the two, but it's all gone wrong for Wenzel, but it's all gone right for Long, with Matt Smith right behind him, and it's Andrew Pike, Mark Pazer, Daniel Moffat, and Mickey Ford who round off your top 20. And Mickey Ford there was 7th place finish in the AM class, where he'll be happy with that one, given where he was running earlier on. He picked up some points right towards the end of the race, and what a way to go. But goodness me, what an end to this race, ladies and gentlemen, and we've got one drive still to finish the race. It is going to be none other than Valeria Tedeschi, who heads towards the line right at the end there and takes home what will be 21st place on the road, or is 8th in class. But as we do try to understand what exactly happened to Janos Wenzel, all on the final lap it all went wrong. Here's a replay, folks. This might explain it. And this was Bart Raven making his way on past. But what exactly happened to our driver? I think that Janos Wenzel suddenly had a connectivity issue and had to make his way to the pits due to a technical issue with the car as a result. And I think that's what's happened. Wenzel, on the final lap of the race, has had to retire to the pit lane due to an issue with the car. And that is gut-wrenching for the German driver, who was doing so well to run home to what would have been 2nd place in AM, only to lose it with half a lap remaining. Well, goodness me, that's not the way we ever want to see it go. But as the circuit falls silent, folks, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And here they are. So after an absolutely fascinating 30 minutes of racing in race number 8 of the Sim Racing Collective MX-5 Championship for 2025, brought to you on iRacing, in the feature race at the Circuito de Navarra, it was Kieran Sharp who has made it his 2nd win of the season for the Sim Racing Collective Esports, only by 2 tenths over runner-up for MSA Racing. Well, he finished 2nd and 5th at Silverstone. Today he has finished 5th and 2nd. Craig Twardok always keeps us guessing. He finishes 2nd there. What an effort from the MSA Racing drive behind the Sim Racing Collective Esports machine. And then in 3rd place, it was none other than Jamie Nuttall for Cracked Racing, who delivered an absolutely brilliant battle. But in the end, as much as he tried to hunt the win, he had to settle for 3rd as Twardok leapt on top right on that final lap. The Cracked Racing driver won't be too upset about that, because he knows he's got big points still coming his way after his result in race number 1 and this podium as well. And he was ahead there of Absolute Motorsport Acelif's Eugenio Polici, who in his debut has made it 2 brilliant drives, no doubt about it. Miles Owens took 5th place there for Altura Esports. And a great effort from him, getting stuck in right at the end ahead of Nick Clemens at iRacing Esports. And it was a further 3 attempts to Francesco Petalin in 7th for Absolute Motorsport Acelif, who had a bit of a quieter race too compared to his race number 1. But sometimes you can't have it all your own way. Mav Gardner, meanwhile, he definitely had it all his own way, with an AM victory there to celebrate in the Sim Racing Collective Esports style. Be absolutely ecstatic about that one, added to his result from race number 1. Head of Bart Raven for Cracked Racing, who finished 9th, and Tom Derriton, who completed your overall top 10. From the Sim Racing Collective Esports drivers, best to rest 11th, Bradley Horsdale, who did well to recover to an 11th place finish given how his race 1 ended, and Alan McCain found himself in 12th at the very end. Not the race he quite wanted today, or either of the races it should be said, but the iRacing Esports driver definitely enjoyed some brilliant battling. One of whom he battled with, Clive Bourne, who finished 13th just behind him for Big Pig Racing by VRS, and then it was 2nd place in the AM class in a dramatic twist for Martin Foster for RPMS Simsport, ahead of David Long by the best part of 15 seconds in the end. 3rd place in class then for David Long. He'll be absolutely ecstatic about that, because that is his first AM podium of the season, and what a way to deliver an AM podium in the end through consistency and determination. And well, the Labraco Racing team driver being followed up then by Matt Smith, who just missed out on the AM podium but finished 4th in class, 16th overall for Cracked Racing. Andrew Pike took 17th place ahead of Mark Pazer, who was unfortunate to miss out on an AM podium, but 5th place in class. That's nothing to complain about there. The privateer putting on a great showing, and we expect plenty more in the week to come. Head of Daniel Moffat, who was 19th, and then Mickey Ford, who finished 20th there for FD Racing, but he definitely was one of the stars of the day. And then Valeria Tedeschi was the last lead lap finisher there, the privateer in 21st. An unfortunate retirement right at the end for Janos Wenzel, but will still be classified a lap down in 22nd place. Head of Luke Smith, with Paul Sims there 24th 4th after that huge jump between himself and Andrew Pike. And then we did see, unfortunately, non-starts for both. Well, in fact, there was a start for Lenny Hansen, as I get ahead of myself there. The Bottle Job Race driver, the last star finishers as classified, but there were non-starts for Ben Hunter for Greasy Bandits Racing and Gareth Ronda there for Cracked Racing at 26th and 27th. So 27 starters, and in the end, only 25 made it away, of which 21 finished on the lead lap. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen. And as quickly as that, our circuit falls silent here in Spain. But whilst the Los Arcos circuit may have fallen silent, this broadcast won't fall silent for too long, because we will be back in approximately, 5 minutes time for our post-round interviews, ladies and gentlemen. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss them. We will see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, it is time for our post-round interviews with our volunteer drivers. And we're going to be kicking off from hearing from a driver we haven't heard from before, and we're going to be hearing from our FD Racing driver of Mickey Ford, as he now joins me in the interview room. Mickey, good evening to you, and it's great to have you here with us. For a first time in the interview room, you've had an absolutely brilliant day today here at the Circuito de Navarra. The results perhaps not reflecting how quick you've been, but how was it for you?
Yeah, overall it was a very good race, I think. As you say, I think I had a lot of speed, but some incidents paled me back, unfortunately.
Well, a bit unfortunate. Let's talk a little bit about it in terms of qualifying. 8th place in class, 21st overall. I mean, qualifying's only worth so much around here, but how have you found the Circuito de Navarra as a circuit?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a short circuit, which obviously with my background I prefer, so I found it quite easy to drive, really.
Well, straightforward circuit to get to grips with and easy to drive, like you say. But going into race number one then, in the end, finishing where you started, 21st overall, 8th place, what exactly happened in the sprints? It looked like it was a bit of an early incident that set you back.
God, I can't remember exactly what happened now. I think it was just a few bumps and scrapes and just got knocked back a bit.
Well, a few knockbacks there. But, I mean, from your perspective, as one of our AM drivers, is always looking to improve the pace and always looking to climb up. I mean, what's it like battling further down the hill? Because we obviously see it's very do-or-die elbows out right at the front of the field. But further back, it looks so sometimes you have those do-or-die moments, and other times it can be quite spacious and respectful racing.
Yeah, I think you're right in what you say there. It is very hit and miss at times. It's, you know, sometimes you enjoy a very good bit of open racing and, you know, everyone knows exactly what's going on. Then all of a sudden you get a group of 4 to 5 cars that all bunch up and then one becomes a bit unpredictable and it has a knock-on effect, I think.
Well, a little bit of unpredictability, but it always keeps things interesting. But to be fair, you definitely kept things interesting going into race number 2. A lightning start, as we see some of your footage from early on in the race. You were making places left, right and centre. I mean, it must have felt incredible. At one point, you're almost chasing down a podium spot.
Yes, I was definitely on a high there. It was very enjoyable then.
And I have to ask, what sort of clicked at that point in the race? Was everything just run as expected, or did you find a little secret perhaps to unlock?
I think I started running a bit deeper into 1 and 2, which sort of then progressed on throughout the lap then, just to hold on a little bit longer. And then obviously the big run down the back straight as such into the last couple corners. I sort of got my braking zone later and later there, so I sort of was making up space there.
I see. So finding some areas to improve and gradually picking off those places. But unfortunately, for all the places you did gain early on, a bit of an instant coming down to the turn 6 hairpin set it all backwards. I mean, from your perspective, it must have been completely by surprise.
Yep, completely unexpected. I thought everything was sort of sorted out. I looked back up in my mirror a couple of seconds before and he was quite far back. I thought, this is going to be okay. We'll just carry around the corner and all will be good. And all of a sudden I felt a bump on the back of the car. The car went loose. And that was that.
Well, it's very unfortunate, but at the same time as well, it doesn't detract from the fact that over the course of the race, you definitely had a lot of pace, and you even showed it on the recovery, in the end of recovering to a 7th place in AM class, given how far it sent you back. I mean, was your mentality at that point, you know what, I'm just going to see what happens at the end of this, because there's still plenty of distance in a 30-minute race?
Yep, that's exactly what I thought. I just think I'll put that instant behind me. It happened. I didn't lose much damage, much space. So I just got my head straight back in the game and was just like, right, let's find these places back, find this space back from the pack that I was racing with.
Well, it was great to see you get right back in the pack in the end and enjoying getting into scraps with the likes of Valeria Tedeschi and Daniel Moffat. But it's been in a way, we could say this has been your breakout round. We've really got to see the pace today from yourself. Does that mean we can expect even more of this in the final 2 rounds?
Oh, we can only hope so. We can only hope so.
And speaking of the next round, we've got Watkins Glen's Cup circuit coming up next. How are you feeling for the US circuit?
I haven't done any laps around that track in a long, long time, so I think I've got some practice to do this week.
Oh, absolutely fair. And I don't mean to pry, but you mentioned earlier on, right at the start of this interview, about your background. Do you have a background in some real-life motorsport, alternative simulated sport, if you don't mind elaborating?
So my background is in real life short oval racing in various formulas. I'm sure some of the guys will not enjoy finding out that I've done all sorts from full contact banger racing through to the hot rods and the bumpers, and enjoying some fast racing in closed circuit. So yeah, I'm not shy away from having a car right alongside me.
Oh,
Um,
brilliant. I mean, to be fair, it's great to hear that you're bringing that real-life motorsport experience into the MX-5's racing here and not afraid to get your elbows out, like you say. I can imagine it perhaps gives you some memories of the racing of the past there, when things do get a bit elbows out in these MX-5s.
oh yes, definitely, it's very enjoyable when it gets a bit elbows out. I just only hope that we can improve upon the results we've had so far.
Oh, well, we definitely look forward to seeing whether you can improve even further in a week's time. You're definitely on an upward trend, I can say that. But just before we do let you go, Mickey, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Obviously, just a shout out to my teammate Luke Smith. He's been a great support over the last couple of weeks. And obviously to all of my fans.
Oh, well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join me in the interview room. No doubt about it. And great to see so many fans cheering yourself and the FD racing team as a whole on. Mickey, we'll leave it there, but it's been a pleasure. And, well, congratulations on your performances today. The results may not have been perfect, but we definitely saw some great pace from you. We hope to see more of that at Watkins Glen in a week's time. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Yeah, no worries, Paul. Thanks for talking, and I hope to catch you near the end of the season.
100%. I'll hold you to it.
Cheers, Paul.
So hearing there, ladies and gentlemen, from Mickey Ford, who's talking a bit about his real-life racing experience with regards to closed oval racing, whether it be hot rods, alternatively other machines of that category, all the way through to translating it into sim racing and talking about the elbows-out nature of the racing through and through. But today as well, talking a little bit more about what we saw on circuit from him. A great set of performances. Now, qualifying's only one side of the story, and talking about the fact in qualifying, enjoying the circuit, feeling quite hooked up. In the sprint race, an early incident set him quite far back and meant that in the end he was really turning the laps and finished where he started, 21st overall, 8th in the AM class. Going into race number 2, however, something clicked, and as he mentioned there, he discovered that into turns 1 and 2 he could brake a lot later, and also in the later corners as well he could carry a bit more speed. That saw him starting to absolutely carve his way through the field. Unfortunately, until his pace was carved with that contact with Matt Smith, who came from quite far back, if my memory serves me correctly. Again, I've got it wrong. I apologise in advance, Matt. But a car came right from behind, made the contact into turn number 6, and sent poor Mickey Ford around there. And from that point onwards, got his head down and looked to recover, and recovered well to a 20th place finish overall, 7th in the AM class. Knowing that today, the points did not come his way, but the pace definitely did, and he's looking forward to the final 2 rounds of the championship and seeing what he can do, and hopefully we'll have him back in the interview room, ladies and gentlemen, and perhaps even we'll get to see him notch what would be a top 5 performance before all is said and done, because right now, well, as we take a look back, his best result of the season has been the 7th place in the feature race today, but goodness me, imagine if he could get himself into the top 5. I think that would be a big story of the season, and we would love to see it. But speaking of things we love to see, we've got more interviews to come, and we will be right back for our second interview of the evening. Don't go anywhere, folks. We've got one of our pro drivers coming up next. So, ladies and gents, without further ado, it's my joy and pleasure to have joining me in the interview room none other than Tom Davidson. Good evening to you, Tom, and well, it's been some time since we've last spoken, but to be fair, time has not dulled your racing abilities down one bit. Today, a podium in the sprint, however, the feature race, it wasn't quite it by comparison, but plenty of battling all the way through.
Yeah, it was a good evening of racing. Unfortunately, let down a little bit by my performance in the second one there, but yeah, it was a good fun race tonight. Some good fights throughout the grid, I think. Just unfortunate about how it ended for me, really.
Bit unfortunate, like you say, but to be fair, plenty of positives to walk away with firstly. Now, we heard from Mickey Ford only months ago, who perhaps didn't put as much of an emphasis on qualifying as he did about his race pace, but something tells me at the very front of this field with the pros, qualifying, it does have a little bit more significance, particularly in the 15-minute sprint race, where it feels as though it's an absolute scrap to get to the lead in the opening 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's not as important as with other cars. You've got such a strong slipstream effect in these cars that you really don't need to worry too much about being a couple of tenths off the pace. You'll stay with the pack. It becomes a problem though when you start fighting, because it's very difficult to bridge that gap again if you lose cars ahead as a result of fighting.
It makes sense. And with regards to bridging that gap, I mean, we did see on multiple occasions where it seemed as though yourself and other drivers, it's almost the classic, the enemy of my enemy is my friend mentality, where you're all fighting too wide into, say, turns 1, 2, and 3, and then suddenly for the remainder of the lap, you all sort of mutually agreed, you know what, we're not going to fight, we're just going to wait, because the guy in front is starting to creep off a little bit. Would you say there's that driver sense? It's almost if, as soon as the driver in front gets to 1.5 seconds, you can't let him go any further away.
I think there's a bit of both. You can fight with the car that you're next to if you don't have too much of a gap, but it certainly costs you a lot if you do start fighting. I think there was quite a lot of working together to keep the group at the front together at the front of the race today.
We need plenty of hard work out there working together at the very front. And in terms of that second place in race number 1, I mean, it's an absolutely great result for yourself. We do love to see you back up there. And just taking a look back at your run of results over the course of this season, I mean, fighting at the very front of the championship, it is only your second place of the season, now your 4th podium. I mean, is it expected at this point of the season? Were you hoping for a bit more? Because it feels as though the competition is so fierce at the moment.
Yeah, it's very tricky. There are a lot of very fast drivers in this series. I've maybe not had as strong results as I would have liked, but when you're up against people that are that fast, you can't really complain. Get a good race out of it, and that's enough, really.
Oh, 100%. And after race number 1, of course, a brilliant second place finish there, just behind Jamie Nuttall, who seems to be on an absolute tear. Race number 2, meanwhile, starting all the way down in what was 9th place. A good start as we look back at some of the replay footage, and in fact, at one point, really scrapping for 4th and 5th. But where did it all go wrong?
I picked up far too many incidents, and I was trying to last the final 7 or 8 laps on 2x remaining, and I got a drive through in the end, so it wasn't to be.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, with that misfortune, of course, a drive-through setting you back, but still plenty of positives to talk about there. And with 2 rounds to go, how do you fancy your chances of becoming champion?
Looking pretty slim at the moment, but it could happen. I'll just have to see what I can put up in the final rounds.
Well, there's still plenty of opportunities, and you never know what could happen. I mean, with the 2 rounds we've got remaining, is there one circuit in particular you're perhaps fancying, whether it be the Watkins Glen or the Red Bull circuit?
I think they're both going to be very strong for slipstreaming, and it's going to be almost impossible to break out any kind of gap from other cars if they're not fighting behind you. I think they're both going to be pretty tough tracks with this car.
Well, tough pair of tracks there for tough racing the pro class, and a tough driver at that to go racing. I mean, we wish you the best luck in trying to chase down, if not the championship win, at least the top 3 in the pro class before all is said and done. Just before we do get ready to let you go, is there anywhere you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Sure, yeah, the guys at TSRC for putting this all together, and of course to you, Paul, for the broadcasting you do. It's much appreciated.
Well, in the same vein, Tom, it's much appreciated to have you join me in the interview room this evening. Congratulations on your performances, particularly that second place in the sprint. Unfortunate with the drive-through in race number 2, but still, we got to see plenty of your calibre over the feature race, and we hope to see that even more with 2 rounds to go. But until next time, well done the performances, and have a great rest of your evening.
Speak to you soon, Paul. Thank you.
So hearing there from Tom Davidson, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit frustrated, understandably, and you can see why based on how race number 2 was evolving. Race number 1, talking about their qualifying, quite important. You want to know exactly where you fit into that pack at the start of the race and how intense it is amongst the lead cars. He demonstrated over the course of the distance that he really did have the nuance or the craft of battling with other cars really down to a T, and that's how he managed to finish second only to Jamie Nuttall by 1.5 tenths at the line in such a close race. However, race number 2 gradually carved his way through, but due to the instant points picked up earlier on in the scraps, he was contesting the final few minutes of the race with only 2 instant points left. One bit of contact, or alternatively 2 off tracks, would be enough to essentially send him over the limit into a drive-through, and that's what happened right at the close, and that's why he's a bit gutted, because hunting down at the time a top 5 finish, this 10th place result does, and in his own words, it means that he is now a bit of a long shot when it comes to trying to take the championship crown, as this round becomes his drop score. He matches his previous worst performance from round number 2, which was a 2nd and 9th place at the Nürburgring, and it's again here, and now it does mean that effectively Jamie Nuttall is starting to pull away, and Tom Davidson, for context, is now 40 points off of the championship leader, so it is looking as though at this point he's got to really get stuck in. But pointed out as well, in the final 2 rounds, 2 very slipstream-focused circuits, so it's not over yet. With the slipstream comes the unpredictability, and Tom Davidson on a good day, where you can always be sure he's going to give it his all. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we now get ready for our final interview of the evening. Who's it going to be with? We'll be right back to find out. And so, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome him to the interview room for the first time this season. It's none other than David Long from La Broca Racing Team. Good evening to you, David. I appreciate you've had to take a bit of a breather getting out of your virtual reality headset. I can only imagine how intense and hot it must have been under it. But how was it for yourself today? Because season best performances all round. 7th in qualifying, 4th in the sprint, and 3rd in the feature. You must be over the moon with this.
Yeah, I'm fairly happy. I'm honestly shattered. But it's like a sauna in this garage right now. So I got my stupidly powerful rig that powers the VR, and yeah, it's like a sauna. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with how the race went. I think I could have done better in qualifying, which would have helped a little bit. And you know what it's like? You get caught up in the little battles at the back, and you just get pushed further and further back. But I tried not to panic in the second race. It's like, I know I'm falling behind. So I think I ended up something like 23rd place at one point. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't great. But it slowly started to come back to me as people were, well, doing silly things in front.
Well, sometimes you just got to avoid being the silly one out there in order to get a good result. And you definitely demonstrated that in the feature race. But coming back to qualifying there, talking about the fact you felt as though perhaps there was a bit more in qualifying, what do you feel went wrong?
Honestly, I've never been the best in qualifying. I tend to just err on the side of caution. I like to give myself a bit of wiggle room so I don't go on getting off track. But yeah, I just think I took it a bit too careful, honestly, on that second lap.
Well, that's absolutely fair. So a little bit of care and a little bit of due caution, well, definitely holding you back a little bit. But come the racing, well, in the sprint race, we got to see 2 very interesting splits in the Anfield. Really, the top 3 breaking away and intermingling amongst pros. But you found yourself right at the head of a very hotly contested AMPAC. I mean, how was that over the 15 minutes?
A blur, honestly. It was very hard to try and keep people behind. People wanted to rush through. So I ended up having to take very defensive lines in like T1, T2, because that everyone tries to break a little bit later. And if they're on your inside, you kind of just end up letting them through. It was really hard.
Oh, goodness me. Well, tough race in there, but still smart craft. And on the back of that, when you were saying about drivers who come in very hot, letting them through, I mean, were you gradually getting to a point where you perhaps realise at some corners that if a driver comes in hot and you let them go, you naturally get the switch back on them, so they don't really gain anything, you just hold your place?
Or someone becomes a wrecking ball. I don't know if you saw the feature, but I could see as Mark was coming past, he was not making that corner. So yeah, I just let him go. And yeah, it was unfortunate for those ahead, but managed to get there. But yeah, honestly, I think there were a couple I could have got on the gas a little bit earlier, and maybe I was a little cautious. In VR, you don't quite have the full peripheral, so I wasn't able to see if cars were on my inside. Just see them vanish from my mirrors, and I had to give them a bit of room. So that probably cost me a little bit of time.
Well, that's absolutely fair, but still, smart driving from yourself. And going into the feature race, well, we did have one driver do their best impression of Miley Cyrus's Wrecking Ball, like you mentioned there, but that aside, kept out of danger, and for the majority of the race, you were running in 4th place, and then suddenly, you jump into 3rd right at the end, a late retirement from Janos Wenzel. I mean, that must have been a welcome surprise to you. Perhaps not the way you want to take a podium, but still, your first podium of the season.
Yeah, it's good to have the rub of the luck, honestly. It's not gone my way a couple of times where I've just had a bit of a snap and then tried to correct it. I'm getting used to these cars still because I didn't have any chance pre-season to do any practice. So literally arrive and drive for every round. And it's been tough getting used to them because I haven't driven these things for years.
Well, tough getting used to them. So what's the one thing then, if somebody sat there right now in a similar situation to yourself, what's the one thing you're concentrating on to learn these cars?
I think with things like GT, you can push quite close to the limit and be fast. I mean, you can overdrive them and still be pretty quick. But if you overdrive these, you're going to spin. You're going to make mistakes. It's going to snap on you. Just try to kind of gradually get there. Don't try and force it, because I find like in qualifying, I'm more likely to overdrive and then make mistakes and slow myself down. In the race, you relax a little bit, a few laps in, and then the time comes to you. And that's what I find with these cars a lot. That if you stop pushing, they drive quicker.
I see. Well, definitely very wise words there, and we look forward to seeing if you can continue that mentality over the remaining 2 rounds. Up next is Watkins Glen's Cup Circuit. How are you feeling for a trip to the US?
Watkins Glen has never been a fond hunting ground for me. T1 is interesting, but yeah, I'm game to give it a go.
Oh, I love it. I love the attitude, and we look forward to seeing you give it a go in a week's time. But just before we do let you go, David, is there anyone you want to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast?
Yeah, I'd like to just give a thank out to Navarra Racing. The community there is great, and they really try to help you out, not only on the driving side but also the mental side. It's really quite nice.
Oh, brilliant. Well, it takes a team in the end to bring everything together, and you at the helm of the Navarra Racing team. It's much appreciated, I'm sure, by your teammates to have that shout out. But with that, we'll leave it there. David, it has been a pleasure. Well done on your season best performances today. A huge score as we head into the late portion of the championship season. We look forward to plenty more in a week's time at the Watkins Glen circuit. But until then, enjoy the results and have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks, Paul. Goodbye.
So hearing there from a very happy, if not exhausted, David Long, ladies and gentlemen, for Navarra Racing Team, and talking about the fact over the distance and finding qualifying not his strength, and that has held him back to a degree. However, the flip side of the coin being that over the course of the racing today, stayed out of danger, played it smart, and gradually built up the pace and really getting to grips with the MX-5 car, that he's relearning that you have to drive slightly below the limit if you want to get the most out of it, and just drive it comfortably. And he did everything absolutely spot on. Where everybody else seems to be making mistakes or losing their head around him, not so David Long. And that brilliant 4th place finish in the AM class in the sprint race was then upgraded to a 3rd place finish in the feature race, albeit admitting there that a little bit of fortune coming his way, particularly with the unfortunate retirement of Janos Wenzel on the final lap of the race. But still, when he's not had that much luck this season, sometimes the luck has to come your way at some point. Now, with regards to Watkins Glen, he mentioned there that he's perhaps not as excited for the circuit, given the fact previous performances have not gone his way. But then again, there's always a chance to turn that around and to turn that frown upside down into a smile. Will that be the way for David Long in a week's time? We'll find out then, folks, and see whether he can move into the top 5 of the AM Championship. But with that, that concludes our interviews for today, and we've heard from our 3 volunteers, and it's great to hear from multiple AM drivers today as well as a pro. We always love to hear from perspectives up and down the order, there's no doubt about it. But we heard there from Mickey Ford, firstly, for FD Racing in the AM class, who had a good day, no doubt about it, but things did not quite click his way over the distance. And then we heard from Tom Davidson for the Sim Racing Collective Esports in the pro class, who had a great sprint race result, but a slightly frustrating feature race with that late drive-through penalty. And then we just heard from David Long from La Bruca Racing Team, enjoying his best performance of the season by quite a significant margin, with some luck on his side and plenty of positivity to go with it. Thank you to all 3 of our volunteers, very grateful to hear from them. Well done the results, and we hope to hear from even more drivers in a week's time at Watkins Glen. But with that, it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know how you can be on the grid at the Sim Racing Collective, well, firstly, we recommend you visit our website. That's at www.tsrc.club. Our website appears on screen. There it is, the #1 place to go to if you want all information TSRC, where we have all of our social links on the left-hand side of the screen. You do have the homepage, which you're looking at, plus also our news and rules pages in the top right corner, and also our partners and affiliates are listed at the bottom and right dead centre, because it's the beating heart of the Sim Racing Collective community, is our official Discord button there. Just click on that, you can join our official Discord and be right in the community, and you can get yourselves on the grid to go racing with us. But if you don't want to go to our website, perhaps you're more of a social media person, you can, of course, follow us on Twitter, and that's at twitter.com/TSRC_official. Well, that way you can stay up to all the latest news and announcements and the broadcasts from our series at the Sim Racing Collective. We'd also like to take a moment to say a big thank you to our partners and affiliates, who do include Motorsport UK's esports division, SimGrid, Coach Dave Academy, and Abruzzi Simulation and Motorsport. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, attention now turns to a week's time, because in round 5 of 6, on Monday, the 6th of October 2025, we go to the Mecca of road racing in the US of A. It can only be one place. It's the Watkins Glen International Circuit, and with rounds running out, points now becoming excruciatingly precious. In the AM class, Martin Foster has held on to lead by 10 points over Mav Gardner provisionally, with Mav Gardner securing his first win of the season, added to 3 podiums in a row, 3 second place in a row. It does seem as though the Sim Racing Collective driver is on a charge after Foster, with Daniel Moffat not too far behind. Meanwhile, in the pro class, nobody has been able to disrupt the flow of Jamie Nuttall, who, with all of the recounting results, he has 6 podiums in 6 valid races, 4 of which are wins. Can anybody stop him before it's too late? Well, we'll find out at Watkins Glen. But until then, we've been the Sim Racing Collective. I've been your host and commentator, Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. This has been the MX-5 Championship, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, and most importantly, like our drivers, folks, remember to stay on track. Good night.